Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of Love and Life Elevated. I'm Dr. James Rouse.
I'm Dr. Deborah Rouse, and welcome to our new look.
What do you think of our new look? And if you can see, this is actually love here. And inside these letters is all these beautiful sayings, sentences, phrases, all around love. So, honey, thank you. I was away attending a funeral last week. I came home. Our youngest daughter, Ellie, and Deb completely transformed my office. Thank you, sweetheart.
You're welcome. My pleasure. I love doing this kind of stuff.
You are, and if it's one of your signature strengths, isn't it? Hey, so today we're going to talk about something that we've talked about indirectly over the last number of years in the Treehouse. And it's all around the work of Martin Seligman, who's at the University of Pennsylvania. He does a lot of work on positive psychology, kind of the father of positive psychology. And interesting enough, that work has really been focused on people and their individual happiness, psychological well-being, emotional resilience, all of those things. But there seems to be a nice movement within that school of thought around how many, if not all of those same principles can help us in relationships of all kinds. Intimate relationships, friendships, community, you name it.
And because you brought it to my attention, I'm going to need to read their names because that's how my mind works. But really what you wanted to talk about is based around this book by, where did I write their name? Oh, sorry. It's called Happy Together, and it's by Suzann and James Pawelski.
Pawelski, yes.
Pawelski. Happy Together, using the science of positive psychology to build a love that lasts. So it really, yes, he works together with Seligman at UPenn. And they wrote this cool book that has some really good points on building loves that last. And you can tell me what your favorite part is, and then I will share mine.
You know what I love about it? I think it's so practical.
Yeah.
That's what I love about it. This is not something where you're going, oh my gosh, I got to pour through thousands of pages of research to see how this might apply to my life. This applies to every single one of them. It's really, maybe it's a really simple way of looking at it, is that we believe, and so do they as psychologists believe, that every human being has something they call a signature strength. You could also call it a love language. It's a thing that you are really here to do. It's a virtue, it's a value, and it's really built on the things that you just love to do. It gives you a sense of satisfaction, fulfillment, hope, joy, peace, love. It gives you all of those things. And the more that we practice those things, the more that we find ourselves being a more of a beneficial presence in our own life. And according to the work of the Pawelskis, it really, really helps to augment the quality of relationships of all kinds.
Yes, and it really comes down to recognizing one another's signature strengths, and it applies, I believe, to healthy romantic relationships, long-lasting relationships, but also, if you think about it with your friendships and work environments, it's so important to recognize one another and acknowledge your strengths, especially when you're seeing that in the person in the moment. But it is funny because I wonder if you know your partner's signature strength. In the book, it's really cute because they actually suggest a date night, like a strength night, where you go out and you kind of talk about your signature strengths, and so that you can really acknowledge and work on that with one another. So you talked about a few of them, and I was asking him about him, meaning James. I was asking James about if he knew what mine were, and you didn't ask me if I knew what yours were.
I didn't, but I want to go back to something you talked about a moment ago. And a lot of people would say, well, of course my partner knows my signature strengths, because I think we can get comfortable with our person or with a friendship or whatever it might be, someone you know really well, and go, oh, yeah, I know. And then when you're really asked to share what they are, it may be challenging if you haven't really asked those questions to them. So yeah, a challenge, I think, for all of us. If you don't know specifically what they might be, this is a beautiful way to get to know your partner at a really deep level. And you may know at a kind of a more surface level, I know this makes that person happy. I know this is something they love to do. That's great. But when you think about the thing that really brings them to life, the thing that really makes them feel that much more possible, that much more confident, that much more loving or lovable, those are the things that these folks have really studied, that when we know those, you take that information and you really cultivate environments, situations where those things can flourish with your partner. That's the part in a partnership. That's the architect work that we do here. We literally look for environments or opportunities to help those signature strengths to come through, to be brought to life. And that is one of our roles. We are literally here to help steward those experiences.
Yeah, totally. And you mentioned that word flourishing, and that really is the bottom line of helping a relationship to flourish. And to go back what you mentioned earlier, you talked about the love languages, and I think it's just right there at the same place. And I might argue with you that I don't know that we just all know each other's love language and signature strength, because if we did, there would probably be a lower divorce rate in this country.
There most likely would be.
It's like you think, I mean, it's just, there's so many cliches there, right? But I would argue that even for half of our relationship, it took a while to really get what each other's love language is and was. And maybe it evolves and changes too, but it was like, you know, why doesn't she care if I bring her flowers every week? Well,
or if I sneak off to the jewelry store and you know,
and track you, and
in our relationship.
What do you do? I see you're at the jewelry store.
And rather than going, I'm so psyched, my husband is at the jewelry store, it's more like, what are you doing there? Get out of there.
Or we talked about last week, like maybe my love language is emptying the dishwasher or cleaning the toilet, acts of service, but not necessarily you having to announce that you did.
Hey, honey, I'm now emptying the dishwasher. Hey, sweetheart, guess what I just did? I emptied the dishwasher.
So my point in saying that is not to make an assumption that we do know each other's signature strengths or love languages, and so it's great to talk about. It's fun. It's fun to talk about it with friends too, because I don't know, sometimes when you wonder why like things are off with a friend or you don't resonate with a certain person upon just meeting them, and it may just be you're speaking a totally different language, you know?
Yeah.
And you're not recognized. Like you may have total opposite strengths. Maybe it's an Enneagram number issue and or there's so many great personality tests out there, but this is just one way of really deepening connection and happiness and flourishing, as you said.
Yeah, and what's really interesting, sweetheart, is that I think for many of us, and I don't want to assume any of us know all this, like we've been together 20 years, so we just kind of know this. It really does create the idea that you might want to have a ritual like that date night where the focus of that time together is to learn about what are those signature strengths, what are the things that make that person feel most happy, confident, alive, beautiful, sexy, whatever the case may be. And I think what's really interesting, they didn't touch on it a whole lot in the book, but I think this is something I've been thinking about since we decided we were going to do this topic. There is something incredibly loving about creating an experience where you learn about this. Because I think in relation, we've been together over 31 years. And in that experience of being together, you can easily get lazy or you can easily make assumptions. But when you really kind of make a statement and then you call to the relationship, hey, this means enough to me that I want to know about this. I think I know, but I really want to know from you what it is that you really feel these are for you. And then not even taking it to the next place, obviously, but this could be a really excellent next step. And that is to think about in your own life, what are you doing to help foster those things? What are you doing to help create environments where your person or that friendship or that partner can feel those experiences coming alive in them, where they feel like it's a great opportunity to share those things? But most importantly, giving them the encouragement that those things are of great value, whether or not they actually help you. They may indirectly, of course, but really this is about them flourishing in their life, because I think in relationships, there's a part of us that absolutely has the deep work that we do continuously on our own. And there's no question, I love watching you flourish. I love watching you when you're in that sweet spot. I love watching you when you feel that sense of confidence and aliveness. And I'm really learning over these last few decades what my role in that is. Not necessarily to do it for you, that's not my role, but my role is to encourage it or create environments where that happens.
Yeah, and you're reminding me of one of the things they do talk about in the book. It's kind of like thinking about going to the gym in your relationship, right? Like you don't get stronger by sitting on the couch every day, right? You get stronger by working on it, by practicing, by going to the gym or your basement, whatever it is, and working on your physical body, your mental health, and everything. And it's really the same is true with relationships. It's like, well, you got to practice these things. You want to work on it. You want to kind of enhance those signature strengths and really appreciate and reflect and applaud those when you see your partner working on those things. So it's just like, oh, honey, I noticed you've been going to the gym, like, great work. It's just like, oh, I noticed you've been practicing that because you see that it's important to me, or that I really respond to, I'm really curious and I'm creative and I really believe in social justice. And so for you to witness and know that those things are important to me, and for you to acknowledge when you see me engaging those strengths, those virtues, those curiosities, I think that is just like the equivalent of, 3 sets of 15 reps of our relationship.
I love that analogy. I remember them using that in the book. And I think what's really fascinating is, for me, I look at the last 30 years of our life. And I think when we first came together, I'll speak for myself most here. I didn't know myself that well. And I certainly didn't know myself in relationship to the degree that I needed to really feel like I could participate to the degree that I knew I wanted to. I just didn't know how. I struggled with that. And when I was struggling with it, I really felt like, oh my gosh, I'm letting Debbie down and I'm letting this relationship down. And I realized, wow, so much of this is getting to know myself and then getting to know myself in this relationship alongside of you. And, for all of us, and we're all in relationships, whether it's an intimate one, a marriage, committed, friendships, all of the things that we're in, think about a person in your life right now where you're going, you know what? I do have a great role in their life, whether it's the person who reminds them to take better care of themselves or to be the witness when they are. We all have incredibly powerful roles. And there's a lot of science out there that speaks to the fact that when we're kind of putting forth that level of kindness for another, when we're helping them to curate and create those environments where those signature strengths come through, our physiology and our neurochemistry really flourishes. You'll see serotonin levels will increase. You'll see oxytocin levels, the trust hormone, and that is a big one right here. And they don't necessarily talk about oxytocin,
right?
But let's just take a moment around this, because oxytocin is the hormone of trust. It's the hormone of bonding. It's the hormone of so many things, also anti-inflammatory. When we really dedicate ourselves in a relationship to building an environment where both people can show up and be the best version of themselves, where we really, really help to initiate and encourage those practices to come alive daily in that person, oxytocin is literally flourishing through us. And when that happens, hope and trust ensue from there. So this is an amazing experience for all of our relationships. And I think that one of the things I thought about a lot this morning when we were getting ready to do this, I thought about how important it is for me to be your partner, to also not necessarily have to speak these things, but to really, really live these things in such a way that you just know that I'm with you on this, that I see you in this, that I'm applauding you in this, without having to intellectualize it. That relationship, emotional and physicality, really being that energy that oh, he's with me in this. He sees this in me. He wants this for me.
Yes, thank you. And I hope you see that same energy for me, and the acknowledging and the cheerleading. And I know when we were first together, you mentioned earlier today when I asked if you knew what my strengths are, and you said that independence was one of them, and it's so true. And we both early on, I'll say we put the S in mothering.
Smothered.
We smothered.
I was
we smothered. So because we were both natural nurturers and mothering, but we didn't need that for each other. Like, I needed independence and space. And so, like, if that's where it really is important to recognize, like, well, like, that may be one of my strengths, nurturing, but I have to find the way that it resonates most in the relationship. And that's by really, like, talking to each other and finding out what really works. And one thing that book also does talk about, I'd love to actually get your take on this. So the take on opposites attracting. The take on, like, can a Republican and a Democrat just like really have
that's a great
healthy
subject.
relationship?
We'll do an entire show on that.
Okay, let's not get political. But I think what the book is pointing out is that it's really important to have things in common. And I mean common values, common virtues, common things that we love to enjoy. I know, I have friends that heard them and their partners don't like the same music, and that's fine. But I think we've talked about, like, it's great to have at least one song that is like your song that you can both enjoy together. But that finding common ground, have things that you love to do together for fun, and things that you love to do on your own that make you your unique self.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. There's so much there, isn't there? I mean, I hope you're thinking.
But what do you think about the opposites attract? Is that going to work?
I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
I haven't. Well, maybe it's there, like, in the sense that some person loves oatmeal. The other person wants sausage.
Okay, that's pushing it.
Yeah. I know. But I think, honey, you hit on it right there. Values, it's hard to have opposites attract when it comes to values. And that's the first place I go. I mean, and I think it may be just the climate we're living in, right? I mean, this is extreme right now. So I think for a lot of us, we think about, and it could be something where, somebody just is more an introvert. The other person's an extrovert.
That's okay.
That can work. I think that can work really, really well.
As long as the values are there.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a lot of ways this can work, but in values, I don't think it can. And I think we deny a lot of our signature strengths, and maybe even more so, I think we deny our virtue. And that is things that we value, and we really upstand and hold those things, and we really, really value them. If those things are not shared, things like common decency, respect for humanity, honesty, truth, courage, compassion, all of those things, if you're just the way you're going solo in that, I don't think that works as an opposite way.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Okay.
One last thing I want to share before we go. There has been a lot of great research on there, and the idea of how growth in its relationship to flourishing is a huge part of what makes these types of research pieces come to life. And I think for all of us who are part of this community, when we're done, hanging out together today, I would love you to just take a few moments before you go and get back into life and think about your signature strengths. What are the things that you really, really value? What are the things that you're really good at? And when you do them, you feel most alive and confident and full of love. And then think about people in your life and what theirs are. And then give yourself an opportunity to maybe, over the next few days, choose each of those people an opportunity to help them to enable that to come forward. Whether it's texting them an idea, sending them a video from your iPhone, anything that you can do to actually help initiate them to actually bring that practice to life because you see it. Part of you seeing it and reminding that you know it's important to them is a huge part of why this is so powerful. And if you are in a relationship with a significant other, you have a partner, you're married, you have that person, really, really give this thought. I think that there's such an important time right now where relationships are put in the front again. I think we get busy, relationships can get displaced, that's just part of life. But let's not lose how important they are to all areas of our life and think about the person that you love so much. And honey, I love you so much, and I love watching you flourish. I love watching you do the things that bring you to life. I love watching you in the garden. I can sit on the deck and watch you in the garden for so long because...
Is that you playing the piano?
I know, it's your hands in the dirt. When your hands are in the dirt, you're so happy.
I know, I want to do that all
And when
the
you're
time.
crafting and building things and making salves and things like that, you're just so happy and you get lost in that. And I want to be a partner that continually makes sure I remind you how much you love those things. And if I can help curate the environment when you remind yourself, that is part of my most happy role as being your partner, being your lover. So I just want to say that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I know how much you love moving rocks and boulders.
I love building fences. And I love building natural things with big rocks.
Yeah, exactly. And just to add on to what you were saying about, acknowledging your signature strengths, I think this is a great place when people wonder where's a great place to start if you're new to journaling or gratitude journaling. Like, start with your signature strengths, like, and being grateful for that. I'm grateful for my creativity, for my courage, for my natural love of nature, and you know, it's important to recognize our own signature strengths so that we can then see them and share them with others.
So true. So true. I don't know why I want to add this, but I'm going to add just one last thing. If you're in a challenged place in your life right now, whether it's with yourself and your own self-care relationship, with your person, really, really take time to consider what are those things for you. I think this is a hard time. I was just reading a piece 2 days ago about anxiety levels, especially here in the US. They are the highest they've been in a long, long time. There's something about self-care and part of a relationship and how that helps to really, really lower the things that bring us that sense of anxiety and disconnect and feeling alone and loneliness, all of those things. So let's really let's do the work we need to do if we're really feeling at odds with that part of our life and we need that kind of help. Reach out to yourself, reach out to us in this community, reach out to someone and let people know. One of the most brave things I've done in my life 40 years ago when I was really struggling with my self-care, I said, I need help. And then I started actively working on helping and creating environments and communities where that help could happen. So let's not be afraid.
That's awesome. I'd love to bookmark that and just add that, you know, you mentioned anxiety and it's over 2 times higher in women. So I'd like to take that up and talk about other ways that we can help support women in mental health, and that'll be for another time.
Yeah, the thing that we want to do here more than anything is be a part of your life, you be a part of ours, create a community where vulnerability flourishes so we can all feel like there's no question we all have work to do. Let's create a place where we all can do the best work of our life and feel like we are all being a part of something that's as big as our life wants to be. And most importantly, this bigness creates something so much bigger than all of us together.
Thank you. I love you.
I love you too, sweetheart. We love you. Have an awesome week, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Peace and blessings. Bye for now.